Well, that's as close as I'm likely to get it. I promised I'd use those 24-track stems to work out all of Prince's wonderful, heavily affected, wailing rubato phrases at the end of Let's Go Crazy. Well, here we are. I reckon I figured it all out pretty accurately. Look, there are definitely places where I had to guess what Prince might have been going for rather than what I was actually hearing, just due to all those effects, especially the delay, combined with the fact that the recording is in MP3 compression format, so, that's not great for slowing things down. But anyway, I don't want to sit here making excuses. Let's pull this beast apart. Let's do it. Let's go crazy. There are 3 main sections to the lead guitar on this outro. The first E blues run, the huge F sharp minor pentatonic freakout, and then some more E blues gear. But these are all interspersed with an assortment of shorter runs and phrases, wild slides, and yes, some decidedly Hendrix-like guitar histrionics. Alright, so let's start with this first E blues section. That's approximately how it goes. I call it an E blues lick because, it's more than the pentatonic scale. It's got some major thirds in there. So I always think of that as a blues thing. It starts off with that bend from the 15th fret on the D note there on the B string, up a whole step to sound like your E. Then we've got a B or 12th fret up to the D, back to the B at the 12th fret. The next phrase in this, I think of it as being, and that's just using the 14, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12 parts of that E pentatonic shape. So that's where you've got that G sharp major third part in there, the first finger bend. Let's go through that really slowly. So we're bending the 14th fret on the G string, releasing that bend and picking it again, back to the 12th fret, then 14th on the D string, that's an E note, straight back to the 14th on the G string, that's an A note, then bending with our first finger a little bit, then stepping down the pentatonic scale. So after that bend on the 12th fret of the G string, release the bend and pick that same note, and 14, 12, 14, 12. Then there's a quick position change and we do a very similar lick down the lower octave. So that's the next phrase. I'm bending the A note, the 12th fret there on the A string, then picking it, released, and then back to the 10th fret. Now it sounds like Prince hammers back onto that 12th fret and then picks it again. Then he does a hammer from 10th to 11th, then up onto the top string, the E note there on the 12th fret, back to D at the 10th fret, back to E at the 12th fret. Everyone does this stuff their own way. I find it easier to slide into that 10 to 11 on the A string. Then there's that big descent where he clearly slides all the way down from that note. But on the isolated tracks, I can hear a couple of other things happen during that descent. This is really weird, but I really like it. So after he hammers from 10 to 11, which is the major third in the E chord, slides down, gets to the 6th fret, pull off to the 5th and back on to the 6th, then down and pulls off from the 1st. Then it's straight to the open E string. He does a little hammer on a D note at the 10th fret, and then plays all three of those strings, just lets them ring open to build up all that noise that's going on at the end of that line. So that's that first section. The F sharp minor pentatonic section. This is where the band stops. The band cuts out and Prince is on his own, wailing away on that. This bit is really Hendrixy, I reckon. So he starts by bending the 17th fret on the high E string, but he bends it like a full step, a couple of frets, but then he ends up bending it almost 2 full steps. It's kind of somewhere between a minor third and a major third. Then he does this great little melodic phrase. It's like, so that phrase is the same note being bent, released, back to the first finger on the 14th fret of the first string. This is all in the F sharp minor pentatonic. So first finger, 14th fret, then back to 17th fret, which is an E note on the B string, 14th fret on the B string, a C sharp note. Back to the 17th fret on the B string, the E note, back to the root note, the F sharp on the first string, bends the 17th fret to sound like the F sharp. Then he goes straight into this blistering triplet lick. This bit took me the longest to work out what he was doing. I think this is the trick. I'm going to call it a trick because I'm a clumsy player. I'm not a very swift, neat, fast player. So for a start, the notes are bend that same note again, the 17th fret on the B string, and then pick the 14th fret on the E string, the F sharp note, twice. So now the easiest way to do that is to basically do it like a little sweep, or economy picking we call it. So 2 downstrokes and then an upstroke. I'm exaggerating it here, but that's what I'm thinking. Now, there's lots going on during that bit because occasionally Prince does what I'm doing, which is misses the odd note, misses a string. There's a couple of open G strings that pop their heads in there. Now, I originally wrote all this stuff out in as much detail as I could, but unless you're Steve Vai, you're not going to be able to play it with that degree of accuracy, you know, all the mistakes. We'll call them mistakes, but they're happy mistakes. They're things that make this thing sound so amazing, so brilliant. But it means that they're out of time. There's a phrase, instead of being nice, neat triplets like that, all of a sudden you've got 4 notes in one of them. All of a sudden you're playing 2 strings at once. You know, he might have his finger barred across both strings. I've left all that stuff out of it. I've boiled it down to what I think Prince was going for. And you know, the incidental things that happen when we play guitar, they're going to happen, and they're going to make it sound, when you do it, like your version of the outro solo from Let's Go Crazy. And you know, what I played before is clearly my version. Okay. So it does that. If we ignore the incidental open strings and things, it does that like 6 times, and then it changes slightly to 17th fret on the E string, and then pull that off and do the same 2 F sharp notes. So in slow-mo, here's what's going on. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 2 bars. Then he does that same thing again, but at the very last beat, changes it up. So here's what happens from there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this bit is so hard to hear what's going on. So that's what I've ended up playing. That's what I think Prince was going for. So what I'm doing there is 17 on the first string, 14, 17, then going 14, 16, 14. That whole phrase again after this bit. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. That last bit, if you want to be really finicky, what I think happens there is it ends up being like 4 notes all of a sudden. So we're going triplets. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 E-ender. All of a sudden we got 4. Because what I think happens is Prince is aiming for, but he hammers, then picks, then pulls. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 1, 2, 3. That's not how I choose to play it, because I can't think fast enough to change to 16th notes in the middle of that bit. Never mind. You can try. Next phrase. Okay, this next phrase in this bit is the messiest, scratchiest. There's open strings, there's pulls and hammers and bends. It's just... It's impossible. And there's so much chorus and flange on the guitar as well. So even slowing it down, there's notes between his vibrato and the way he's pulling the strings around and the chorus. It's almost impossible to tell one note from another in some sections. Anyway, again, let me preface this part of it by saying, here's what I reckon Prince was going for. So after this... So it's a very bluesy little lick. The whole phrase starts on the 14th fret on the E string, 14, 17, 14, 14. 17 on the G string, which is the flat 5, the blues note in the pentatonic blues scale. Then we've got a 17, 16, 14 on the B string. Then the same on the G string. Then we've got a little blues double stop lead. Prince really pulled that up. This little bit here, it sounds like a bend, like a half step bend, but I find it easier to play repeating that shape. The rest of that run is straight down the blues scale again, the pentatonic minor. So after the little double stop, which is 16, 16, 14, 14 on the G and B strings, then we go 16 on the D string, 14, bend, give it a big bend, Van Halen style. Then 16, 15, 14, 12. That bit is so Van Halen. There's a couple of things in Prince's playing, the more I listen to this stuff and try and write it out, that I reckon he was hugely influenced by Eddie Van Halen. So that's that run. 16, 16, 14, 14 with a bend. 16 on the D string, 14 with a bend. 16, 15, 14, 12. It slides straight down from that, kicks that flanger into overdrive. So as he slides down and up the string, it's got that huge amount of flange effect going on there. Then we have one of these little phrases that comes in between. It's like the old blues ending, that you're descending. So that's exactly what it is. So D note there, 5th fret on the A string, then 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6 on both of those strings. And that one is over an open E note, although I don't think he plays it on the same guitar. That's just where the band hits that E chord. Now, mixed quite a long way back, there's a little lick in here that I hadn't even noticed before until I singled this stuff out. But it sounds like... sounds random like that, but it's mostly because there's a couple of open string pull-offs that I don't think were intentional that are in there. 6th fret on the D string, it's a G sharp note. Pull off to the F sharp note on the 4th fret. Then we go 6, 5, 4, 3. So chromatic on the A string. Then as it climbs back up, Prince pulls his finger off and gets an open A note sort of blended in there with the next note. Then we go 4, 5, 6 back on the D string. There's a very brief B note, a 4th fret on the G string in there before he makes his way back to this note, but only after hitting an open D string on the way. So then we're 6, 5, 4 back on the A string, and another accidental pull off to the open A. So altogether that bit is the notes aren't that even. It speeds up, it's very free. That I said at the start, rubato. So it's free. It's just the way Prince was riffing as he came up with his stuff off the top of his scone. The other thing about that run is it's a little bit messy in that he kind of plays it like instead of so he ends up with a faster note in there. Okay, that leads us into the next E riff. Prince does that beautiful bend on the 19th fret that takes us right up to the C sharp note. So that's a B note on the E string there. Bends that up a whole step. Then 17, 19, then a little like a Mixolydian kind of lick. So he's doing either a hammer or a quick slide from the 15 to the 16, which is a G to a G sharp. Then he does a chromatic descent from the 17th fret, the E note there. 17, 16, 15, 14. Then he goes 17, 15, 14 again. Then a similar thing on the next string. So B, which is the 16th fret on the G string, B flat, 15th fret, A, 14th fret, the G to G sharp, still on that string. So 16, 15, 14, 12, 13. Then the end of this run is very similar, but down an octave, an E note, 14th fret on the D string, 13, 12, same on the next string, 14, 13, 12, and the same again, G to G sharp, or 10 to 11 there. So now, Prince really does speed up those last little runs, and in fact, it's nowhere near as clean as simply, he actually goes, it's kind of like that. It's as Prince's hand is moving across the frets as he changes position, but continues picking. We're almost at the end, so from that note, Prince holds it for a moment, and then he does a slide up the neck to that tritone E7 shape. So he's on the G string and the B string, and he's playing the 19th fret and the 21st fret. You can hear him go, he's on the wah pedal, and then he slides right back down, and he even hits the open strings, the open G and B strings at the end of that descent a couple of times. And then he does a big hammer and pull on the open D to E 2nd fret, and then just hits that one-fingered E power chord, but you can even hear that there's an A note in there. So it's like open, 2, 2, 2. And then with that big take me back to his F sharp notes to finish it off with the wow. And that's it. That's all of it. I hope you picked your way through all that with me. That has taken me, as I said, I'm a slow player. I'm not a real fluid, swift picking guitarist. So, something like that, even though he's nowhere near the speed of most of our Instagram heroes these days, it's still hard for a player like me to get that up to speed. Thank you very much for tuning in as always, and give me a like, give me one of these, just gently thumb one in for me if you can, and if you choose to subscribe to my channel, ring that bell, and then I'll see you next week. Oh, because I've still got to figure out how the hell he does that intro to When Doves Cry. That's coming up as well, I promise. It's coming soon. Thanks, everyone.